Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8. So there hasn't been a ridiculous amount known about this upcoming season of The Flash, and to be fair, it is still about 2 months away from coming out and hitting our screens. Obviously with it starting with that 5-part Armageddon event crossover thing. With most of the stuff we know about Season 8 sort of coming from the end of Season 7, and the discussions and interviews around that. Now we should start getting much more information about the proper season, post 5-part event, probably around DC Fandom, or specifically DC Fandom in the middle of November. Oh, sorry, October. The show starts in the middle of November. But even then, with Fandom, I think they'll be focusing in on this 5-part event, but there'll still be some stuff that comes out because by that point, they'll be filming stuff outside or past that 5-part event. Hopefully that's making sense, like the proper season they'll be actually filming. But recently we got some confirmed returns, or returnals, is that the correct term anyway, for this season of The Flash that weren't announced during the announcements of the guest stars for the Armageddon event, as that sort of focused on characters from other shows. So the first thing that came out is that whilst taking part in the Inside of You podcast, which is hosted by Michael Rosenbaum, aka Lex Luthor from Smallville, John Wesley Shipp, who of course plays Jay Garrick, revealed that he will be flying to Vancouver to film for the Armageddon crossover in about a month's time. Now that interview came out about a week ago. It's probably done about maybe 2 weeks ago. So let's just say roughly, anyway from like 2 to 3 weeks from now, he'll be doing that flying and taking part in the filming. Now we know that they have filmed stuff out of order for this Armageddon event, but seeing he is still showing up that late, it seems that it will mainly be the core of the show along with the guest actors in the early parts of this Armageddon crossover, before involving guest actors mainly associated with the Flash show, like Jay Garrick. But speaking of guest actors from the Flash, another actor and character that was confirmed back only just before I started preparing this video was Natalie Dreyfus as Sue Dearborn. Now, she was in her cat suit, I guess you would call it. She put a thing on Instagram saying, "Yo, I'm back, what's doing?" And while I would assume she is there just for one episode, it could be more, but I would say one episode, but it will be interesting to see how she plays into it all. And of course, the ongoing discussion around or about Ralph Dibny will surely be raised by viewers when she does show up, whatever episode that might be. But moving on, Eric Wallace, of course, the showrunner for The Flash, has done an extensive preview interview for Season 8 with TV Line. However, that is yet to be released. Instead, TV Line revealed a sliver of what they talked about in their fall season premiere schedule article thing. And though Flash doesn't premiere until November, and the rest of the shows in this feature schedule article thing are October premieres, I think all of them are except maybe one or two others, it still falls into, well, the fall area. The Flash is still a fall show. But here is what TV Line wrote up in regards to a bit of a preview for The Flash Season 8. Much has been revealed about the 5-episode Armageddon event that opens Season 8. Barry and co will team with Black Lightning, Arrow's Mia Smoke, Batwoman and others against both aliens and an Eobard Thawne Damien Dark alliance. And showrunner Eric Wallace isn't inclined to spoil much more, other than to say there is a level of scale and spectacle right out of the gate that we weren't able to achieve last year due to COVID restrictions. But in previewing Season 8 as a whole, Wallace confirmed the return of Speedster Kids Bart and Nora, as well as Kristen Kramer, who has a lot to deal with upon realizing her meta-mimicking skills, and teased a villain who will force Team Flash to face their mortality in a highly personal and ultimately terrifying way. And also, there's a bonus spoiler! Exclamation mark. Wallace said that Joe West is going to get an incredibly different perspective on life, and it will lead him to a really big choice, one that dwarfs last season's decision to turn in his badge. So firstly, let's just quickly break this down. The first thing that caught my eye, and I was like, hold on, wait, what's going on there? And some of you might have skipped it. I don't know, maybe you're in my thinking. We're synced up. But an Eobard Thawne Damien Dark alliance? I can't remember that being mentioned anywhere when they announced this crossover. They said Eobard Thawne and Damien Dark were the villains of this guest, character thing, but Despero, this alien, was the threat. So Eobard Thawne and Damien Dark are villains, but they're just guest actors within this thing. We didn't know what they were necessarily doing, but I guess this is confirming an alliance between the two. So maybe this could be playing off their Legion of Doom times from Legend of Tomorrow, and Legend of Tomorrow Season 2. I'm sure if you watched it, you remember that. So we had Malcolm Merlin, Damien Dark, and Eobard Thawne as that core Legion of Doom. Sure, God showed up and did some monkey business, but those are like the core three of that Legion of Doom. So maybe they're tapping into that alliance again, or that past teamwork. So that's interesting, but I wonder, do they have their own devious plans in this crossover, or does Despero tap into them and maybe form an alliance with them? I'm interested now because when they were showing up, I thought it might be due to some time travel and they were just there at a certain period of time or something like that. But now they're saying alliance, so that gets me interested. What do you think of that? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, the next thing to focus on is when Eric Wallace said there is a level of scale and spectacle right out of the gate that we weren't able to achieve last year due to COVID restrictions. And I'm interested to see like what he means by that. I'm assuming he literally means there can be more people in scenes. I think that's literally what he means, because whenever there was interviews done in season 7, and that was actually brought up, like if you go watch season 7 or even just remember watching, because it wasn't too long ago, there's just limited people in scenes. I'm not even talking about like the actors, like, you know, like Grant Gustin and Candice Patton and Daniel Panabaker. I'm just talking about supporting and background actors. There's limited to none. Like they'll do scenes and the street would be empty, and we understand why it was empty, because normally, like, if this was set in COVID, it makes sense. No one would be there, everyone would be wearing masks. But there's just no one walking in the background like they normally would. They pretty much had nothing going on. So it felt weird. It felt really weird. So even just little things like that bump it up a bit. But I think it's just going to be the fact that they can have stuff blowing up. And we know they're going to have that thanks to set photos. And they didn't do that last season. So you can have stuff blowing up, you know, crowds reacting to it, running away, you know, various things like that. So straight out of the gate, that makes sense. And he even says right out of the gate in the quote. So I'm interested to see like how big it is, this like Armageddon event. We know, I think it's going to be a middle ground, but I'm hoping it does lean more to, you know, crossover scale. You know, I'm not saying like, oh my God, it has to be like the level of a crossover, but I'm saying maybe it meets it like 3/4 of the way. Like it's not full crossover, but it's closer to a crossover than a normal Flash episode. So I'm excited to see what they do and how big it can potentially be. The next thing, Bart and Nora are confirmed to be back. Now, we had no confirmation beforehand, even though it was somewhat well known that they would be in season 8 to kick it off, because the actors had hinted at it, or Jessica Parker Kennedy, who plays Nora, and Jordan Fisher, who plays Bart, had hinted at it, but it hadn't been confirmed. Now, the thing with this is that it seems we're going to be getting a limited Bart Allen at the very least. And by limited, I don't mean like when he's in an episode, he's in there for like one scene, but I mean in regards to how far into the season, as he would have to be gone shortly, I'd say after the Armageddon event finishes filming, due to the fact that Jordan Fisher, who plays Bart, is on Broadway. He's doing, I think it's Dear Evan Hansen, I think he's doing that show. So that starts in early December. So sure, it doesn't start till December, but he'd have to be there. I think it's in New York where they're doing it. Obviously, it's Broadway, so it's New York. So he'd have to be there for rehearsals and preparation a good at least month. I would say probably 2 months beforehand. So that's limited in regards to that. And I think by the time he'd be done doing that show, I think the season might be done filming. Oh no, maybe not. So maybe he could appear again at the end of season 8. I'm not too sure, but yeah, he will at least have to be gone after a few episodes after Armageddon at the very latest, so maybe like 6 or 7 or 8. But I guess with Nora, that brings up the question whether she'll stay around. I would assume she would go with Bart. I don't know why she would stick around specifically and it'd just be her. You're just repeating season 5. I think if one of them was going to stay to freshen up, you just leave Bart. But if Bart has to go, you think Nora would go with him as well. The next thing, Kristen Kramer, we know is in the Armageddon event thingy, but she might just be taking part in the storyline that will continue into the normal storyline rather than what's going on with the Flash and all the bigger stuff. So she might have be involved with the storyline that starts in Armageddon and continues through the normal Flash season. Now, obviously, the big job at hand with Kristen Kramer is trying to make her character likable. I don't think anyone left season 7 going, Kristen Kramer is my favorite character of the season. Now, you can make this character likable. It can be done. I mean, Ralph, a lot of people didn't like him. A lot of people hated him, and they showed progression and change, and then it grew to a lot of people liking him. So it can be done. It's just whether they can do it, and if there is actually any chance of making her likable. I guess it matters who you associate her with. I know she's done scenes with Grant Gustin as the Flash, so maybe they're going to try and tie her in with what the Flash is doing to make her more likable. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what they do there, but that's actually a big challenge, and I'm interested to see how they can tackle it and whether they do succeed. Now, the tease of the villain who will, quote, force Team Flash to face all mortality in a highly personal and ultimately terrifying way, that was revealed before, like maybe like 3 weeks ago or something like that. We've already done a video covering that. You can take your guesses at what it is. A lot of people think it's Red Death because they're highly personal but ultimately terrifying. They've already said that like one of the villains is going to lean into the horror genre, and if something's ultimately terrifying, you think that would lean into the horror genre. So I'm going to say it's that. But I'm sure they'll actually probably confirm. They'll probably reveal that fairly soon. I think, like maybe within like the next month to 6 weeks, maybe around Fandom, maybe at Fandom they might announce that because they'll be doing filming and they might get spoiled on set, so they probably want to do their own announcement before it comes out from set and it's not as big of an announcement. You know what I mean? And finally, Eric Wallace said that Joe West, quote, is going to get an incredibly different perspective on life and it will lead him to a really big choice, end quote. Now, apparently this is one that's going to dwarf last season's decision to turn in his badge. I don't know, this is probably just overhyping Joe to the fact that he's probably going to get married. I mean, they hinted at it last season that Cecile, hinted at it. I think that's probably what it is. But the other thing is that maybe he considers moving into retirement, so Joe just moves away completely from the Force. The thing with that is that I think if they do that and they retire Joe, I don't see how they can keep him on the show as much as they do now, if that makes sense. Because really, he ties into the show a lot because they'll involve stuff with CCPD. So I don't know how they would keep him on the show that much if he retired. So that could mean that Joe leaves the show along with Cecile. Which, people complain about the show being bloated. It just matters whether they want Joe and Cecile to be the two people that leave, or specifically Joe in this case. So I don't know. Wait and see. I'm sure we'll get some sort of hint fairly early on as to what this is. I'm just gonna take a guess and say it's him getting married and proposing to Cecile, just because I think it's that simple, and it could be a bit of an overhyping. But maybe Joe, I know, maybe he gets metahuman powers and he can grow antennas that shoot laser beams. I don't know. Maybe that's what's going on with Joe. Who knows? But yeah, guys, that's it. That's all to talk about. If you enjoyed the video, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions about all of this. Anything that intrigues you, any theories going forward. Are you surprised by this Eobard Thawne Damien Darhk alliance? What are your thoughts on that? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.